Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about Sega Saturn emulation on Android with Yaba Sanshiro 2 Pro and Yaba Sanshiro 2. And both of these emulators just got a brand new update. The big part about this update is great news for fighting game players. They say the sound loop issue for X-Men vs. Street Fighter is now fixed. Moving on, and we're switching from some good news to some not good news, and we're talking about custom GPU drivers on Android, specifically in regards to Turnip. If you've got a Snapdragon CPU and you use Turnip drivers, and you pick them up from Kimchi's GitHub, well, it doesn't appear that this is going to be updated anytime soon. So over on the Yuzu Discord, Kimchi says they're out too until further positive notice. They also say they want to thank everyone for the great support to the Turnip Kimchi Edition driver, and hopefully they can return. Now, fortunately, the Turnip drivers are open sourced, and some people have their own repositories where it appears they've done some work on them. As soon as I know a solid alternative, I'll let you know. And speaking about free and open source, next up we're talking about a free and open source password manager, Bitwarden. And it appears that Bitwarden is revamping their mobile apps. If you wanted to read the story as to why they're revamping it, I'll drop a link to it in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. At a high level here, they're revamping the iOS and Android apps in the next few months. And if you wanted to see the new version in action, I'll drop a link to a couple of helpful YouTube videos in the description below, and again, I do recommend checking them out. They have a demo up for the Android version and also one for the iOS version. Next up, we're talking about PS1 emulation with Duckstation, and Duckstation has got a number of updates. Now, these changes are on their latest preview build, which means they're still being tested and finalized before they get rolled over to the mainline build. And these changes introduce accuracy improvements, performance improvements, VRR, which is variable refresh rate support, and even more. Stenzek has done a lot of work on this one. Now, as far as I know, these updates are just for PC, so Windows, Mac, and Linux. The latest update we've got for Android is back on January 22nd, so I'm hoping this one gets updated soon. Next up, we're talking about GameCube and Wii emulation with Dolphin, and Dolphin has just added in a niche feature that some people have been asking for a while. Now, this is in regards to aspect ratios, and they've added in custom relative and raw aspect ratios. I would argue that the majority of people are probably not going to use these options, but if you wanted to see them in action, I'll drop a link to a video in the description below. Next up, this is a quick one, but a good one. There's a brand new game on Steam that hasn't released yet, but it's popped up and it's called Old School Rally. You can add this one to your wish list if you want, and if you take a look here, it looks amazing. Now, the developer says this is a PS1 style rally game, and based on the graphics, I'd say it's a good mix between PS1 and PS2. I'm a big fan of this style of game. Unfortunately, I don't know the release date yet or even the price. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Next up, we're talking about Virtua Fighter, and it appears there's a brand new Virtua Fighter in development, or at least that's what the rumors are saying. They say it's online and esports focused and has online and offline modes, including customization modes. There are new characters with a modern art style and character artist. It is a game concept that changed many times since 2021 up to now. Now, to be honest with you, I am taking this one with a grain of salt, but I'm also extremely excited and hopefully it's real. They say here it's a title releasing on all major platforms with crossplay and rollback. It's a reboot of the Virtua Fighter series, and there is a new main story with side stories and brand new characters. Now, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown was released just a few years back. It's on sale right now, and I thought this one was an okay game. It must have done well enough that Sega wants to make another one. And speaking about upcoming news and also rumors, next up we're talking about Gravity Rush 2, and apparently Gravity Rush 2 Remastered is still coming to PS5 and PC. And they're saying here, expect some news in May. The original version of Gravity Rush 2 was released back in 2017 for the PS4, and I for one would be excited to see this hit PS5 and more importantly PC. Let me know your thoughts about this game in the comments below. Would you be excited for it? Next up, this is a quick one. It appears there's a brand new God of War GTA 5 mod in development. We're getting God of War in GTA 5 before GTA 6. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. I'll drop a link to the video in the description below. In my opinion here, this looks like a pretty darn cool mod and one that I'd be interested in checking out. And speaking about mods, next up we're talking about Simple Mod Downloader, and they say here that this is a Switch homebrew which downloads mods from Game Banana. So version 2.0.0 of Simple Mod Downloader has just released, and the developer says that this is a huge update and they rewrote it from scratch. They're very pleased to announce they finally finished rewriting Simple Mod Downloader from scratch. The app now utilizes a new version of Borealis for the UI, which has allowed them greater flexibility in the UI design. There's reduced loading times, improved performance, and they've added a new page to preview the mod. This one is free and open source, and if you are curious about it, I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Feel free to check it out. There's also a video showcasing this mod in action. Moving on, and we're talking about Gearsystem, a Sega Master System, Game Gear, and SG-1000 emulator, and it just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, version 3.5.0 just dropped. We've got bug fixes, optimizations, improvements, and brand new features. For example, you can now save screenshots. They've improved the input response time. There's scaling improvements, and they've introduced some overscan options. Moving on, and we're talking about Gearboy, which is by the same developer here, and this is a cross-platform Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulator, and it also got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, Gearboy version 3.5.0 is the latest update. The same version as Gearsystem, and the improvements here are pretty much the same as Gearsystem. We've got bug fixes, performance improvements, optimizations, and yes, brand new features. The new features are pretty much the same as Gearsystem. We've got saved screenshots, improved input response time, scaling improvements, and even more. Next up, we're talking about emulation front end on Android, Beacon Game Launcher, and Beacon Game Launcher just got a brand new update. This one has a whole bunch of bug fixes, a brand new scraping source using SteamGridDB, an overhaul of the color system, a new background style, and new theme colors. And last up here, we're talking about Twitter, or X, and if you use this app on mobile, you may want to make sure this security setting is updated. By default, I believe it's turned off, and it can expose your IP address, or it does expose your IP address if someone decides to call you. Now, there are a few ways to get to this setting. You can open up your direct messages and hit the gear icon, or you can open up the side menu and hit settings and privacy. From here, you can hit privacy and safety, and then direct messages. And from here, you'll see a toggle that is usually off by default that says Enhanced Call Privacy. I have absolutely no idea why this is turned off by default, but here we are. So it says here, enable this setting to avoid revealing your IP address to your contact during the call. Now, if you didn't know this already, Twitter has a feature to allow audio and video calls. I have personally never used this. Anyways, another option for you here is just to disable this feature altogether, and then you've got nothing to worry about. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and one fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.